Welcome to the D-Post Sports Chat. I'm Ed Owens here, joined with Justin Jackson, WVU men's basketball writer for the Dominion Post. We're getting ready for the WVU Marshall Capital Classic game on Sunday, and Marshall's a team that's struggling heading into this one. A lot of changes this year to their starting lineup, and it's really impacted them.
Yeah, changes in lineup and changes in coaches as well. DAntoni, West Virginia native from Mullins, in his first season with the program. And, you know, anytime you have a new coach coming in, you're going to see some guys leave, and you're going to have, maybe have to dismiss a couple of players. And, and Dan has had to go through that at Marshall. Kareem Canty, Marshall's point guard, is now at Auburn, and Chris Thomas was a high-scoring forward for Marshall last year. He's now at Texas Southern, and he also had to dismiss Taekwon Gord, who was a starting forward for the team. So they're missing three starters from last year's game, and they are struggling, and it shows in the stats. Right now they're 170th in the nation in scoring. They're averaging less than 70 points a game, and they're shooting less than 40% as a team. So they are struggling at this point, and they've lost 5 in a row going into the game, and 3 of those losses have been against Power 5 or BCS conference teams. They've lost to Louisville, South Carolina, and Penn State heading into this game. So kind of a tough portion of Marshall's schedule, and they are struggling to bring everything together.
Yeah, schedule is definitely not helping Marshall to this point in the season. Heading in, you mentioned D'Antoni. He's a West Virginia native,
right.
Much like Bob Huggins. They have kind of a similar history there and similar paths that brought them to coaching.
Yeah, it's similar paths that hasn't really crossed until Sunday. Coach Huggins, his father, Charlie, was a legendary high school coach in Ohio, and of course Bob the family grew up was from Morgantown, and then Charlie moved the family to Ohio later on in Bob's life. And Dan, as we said earlier, was from Mullins, and his father, Lewis, was a high school coach at Mullins High School and won a state championship in 1955 for the school. And then he also moved his family to Ohio later on after Dan had already graduated and was playing for Marshall at the time. And actually, Charlie and Lewis coached against each other in high school while they were in Ohio. So the families, there's a little bit of a history there. Bob has never coached against D'Antoni. You might know his younger brother Mike, who has been an NBA head coach. He does have a little bit of history with Mike through NBA dealings, and of course when Bob was coach of Cincinnati, he had a lot of players go to the NBA, so there's been a little bit of a connection there. So there's a little bit of history between the family, but this will be the first time they've actually coached against one another.
First time D'Antoni's really dipping his toe into this WVU Marshall rivalry, and earlier this week he kind of made a bold proclamation saying that he wanted to kind of change the format of this series and kind of revert to home sites. Yeah,
and that's not necessarily out of the blue. Other Marshall coaches have kind of hinted at that before. And from 1980 to 1990, this series was actually played home and home. It was in Morgantown one year, then in Huntington the next year. And actually WVU is 0-5 all time in Huntington. So that might be one reason why WVU doesn't want to do it. But as far as it moving out of the Charleston Civic Center and back to a home and home basis, if WVU was interested in doing that, it probably would have been done a while ago. WVU likes the game in Charleston for the simple fact that there's a lot of alumni, a lot of fan support in Charleston, and they would like to play some games in the Charleston area to sort of thank the fans from that area for supporting the school. So I don't know if anytime soon if it'll move out of the Charleston Civic Center. It's a possibility, but Marshall would certainly like it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Something to keep an eye on in the future, and in the immediate future, have a couple days to get ready for the Capital Classic. It's coming at you on Sunday afternoon. Yep. You can get the coverage in the Dominion Post and on thedpost.com, and please check back with us for more videos in the future. Thanks for joining us.